Hey there, Papper people. It is me, Jason. Now, the purpose of this video is to do kind of a refresh of a video I've done in the past about the ResMed Airsense 10 APAP machine. I want to get into more than just the settings. How do you get into the Clinicians menu? I'm going to show you how to get in there, but I'm also going to show you some really important things about the settings within the Autoset. So if you ever have any questions about any of this or feel lost, I do have a business. It is called axgsleepdiagnostics.com. I have an Oscar PAP therapy analysis where I use Zoom to dial into your computer. We look at your data together. I show you how to read it, things like that. So Oscar to me is very important. You can download that at sleepfiles.com/Oscar. I also have a talk to a tech where if you just have general questions, want to run them by me, we can do that as well. Okay, one last important thing is changing your pressure. I would not take it lightly. Typically people have a prescribed pressure for a reason, although we all know that physicians make huge mistakes with this all the time. So if you're making any changes, please do so with some data points. So that's why I highly recommend using Oscar. You can look at the data, you can see if you're having legitimate events or not. You really don't just want to be changing the pressure just to change it. And I also always encourage people to try to communicate their changes or what their thoughts are, their therapy problems with their physician first. If your physician is a butthole, then yeah, go ahead and do it yourself. But otherwise, I usually recommend working with your physician as much as possible to keep them in the loop since they know your entire medical history. All right, with that, let's get on with the video. When you initially plug in your Airsense 10 Autoset, this is the screen you're gonna get. It's just the home screen. So you have two options. You have My Options on the top, you have Sleep Report on the bottom. If you ever wanna look at the sleep report, it tells you what your last session was if the machine is off. So last session was me turning this on for a demonstration, so there's absolutely nothing there. But had you used it for any length of time, it would be displaying something for the time of hours used, events per hour, mass seal. Now under My Options is where you're gonna see the options that are opened up to you right now. I'll get into all these because these are actually all within the Clinicians menu. We'll get into them a little more, but right now, these are all that are available to you. Now, if we want to get in and see the Clinicians menu and really alter them, you just want to hit on this home button right here and push in on this dial at the same time while My Options, the top one, is highlighted. We're going to push in and hold. It's about 3 seconds. Okay, now you see the Clinicians menu. Looks like a couple gears and it has the settings. So we're going to depress the spinning knob and you can see here you have under the therapy tab, you have mode. Another really interesting thing about the ResMed Airsense 10 Auto.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Dude, I'm in the middle of recording a video right now. Seriously?
My name's Honda.
Dude, I don't care what your name is. I'm recording a video right now.
Look at me, I'm sitting on top of one of the buttons.
Dude, what do you want?
I can just tell by the way you're presenting this, I'm really gonna wanna buy this machine.
Okay.
Where do I go buy this Airsense 10?
Look, that's easy. If you're interested in purchasing the ResMed Airsense 10 Auto, just go to the sponsor of this video. It's cheapcpapsupplies.com.
Look at me, Lanka. Now I'm hanging on to your SD card slot.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Let's check out cheapcpapsupplies.com. Check out that Airsense 10 Autoset Suite, $549. No, too much. We can pick up some masks too. We don't have to just get machines. Look at this. If we apply the coupon code 20ResMed, we're getting $110 off. Where did I find that discount? cheapcpapsupplies.com/coupon-codes. Bam, they're in there. Look at this. We can also, if we don't want to pay cash, we can qualify through insurance. You can also use your Flex spending account. Let's be creative.
Oh dear me, can I still use Lefty 610?
Yes. Lefty 16
still works.
Don't be a fool. Don't be a boon bab or a noob nab. Go to cheapcpapsupplies.com, the sponsor of this video.
Look at me, I'm hecka strong.
All right, on with the video. So Autoset is where you can set a range of pressures. So right now the min pressure means that the CPAP, when you turn it on, is gonna start off at that pressure. It's gonna start off at 5 centimeters of water. That is a measurement of pressure. It's really not all that much, but that's the measurement and that's what it's called. Now it has the potential to go up to a max pressure of 8. Now if we wanted to change either of these, we just wanna push in on that. You can see how it highlights the number. We can decrease this or increase this. And I did a video a long time ago where I put 5 to 20 is stupid and it was max pressure is 20, min pressure is 5. Now what this allows and why it's stupid is basically what it's going to do is take a really long time to increase the pressure to your appropriate pressure. It also gives it a chance with this high pressure of 20 to have a runaway pressure if you have a leak. Also, if it's misinterpreting the data. Now these machines are notorious for misinterpreting the data. I do a thing, the PAP therapy analysis through my website, axgsleepdiagnostics.com. You can just look at the waveform and the way that they are shaped and I can tell if it's obstructive in nature or central in nature, and it matters a lot. matters to the treatment, but the machine is really dumb. I've seen it mark central apnea as obstructive apneas, and when this happens, the algorithm tells it to increase the pressure. Now, if it is a true central apnea, increasing the pressure is absolutely the worst thing for it. I've also seen this happen vice versa, where it's actually an obstructive apnea, and it marks it as a central apnea, and in this case, it's going to decrease the pressure, which is the exact opposite of what you want to do. So, though this is a common pressure, a big range like that, it's great for about 3 weeks, but at that point, you really want to go in and reevaluate the pressure. And I'm always a big proponent of moving it to just a static pressure, a single pressure. To do that, I would go into Autoset and I would rotate up to CPAP. Now there's just going to be one single pressure that you would set. If you're like, dude, I just got myself an AutoPAP, I'm not going to use CPAP, well, that's great. So you can go into APAP or Autoset mode at that point, and you would know what your pressures tend to be. And in that case, you'd want to zero in. So say you look pretty good around 10 to 12, then you would want to make 10 to 12 your max pressure, min pressure 10. That's kind of the way it works. Okay, so mask, it really matters what mask you're using because they all have expected leak rates that are different. So if you're using a pillows mask, that's going to be anything that inserts into your nose. It would be a nasal pillow mask. Examples of a pillow mask would be things like the Fisher-Paykel Brevita, the ResMed P10 or P30, or even like the Dreamwear nasal pillows mask. So if you're using a different mask, like you're using a full face mask, that's something that covers up your nose and your mouth. And when I say cover your nose, I don't mean actually cover your nose. I mean cover the opening of your nose. So it's going to cover your nostrils and cover your mouth. So an example of this would be, of a full face mask, would be like the ResMed F30, ResMed F20, the Fisher-Paykel Simplus, or the Fisher-Paykel Vitera. Other full face masks would be like the Philips Respironics Dreamwear full face mask. But to change this, you just want to click on it and rotate. So that if you're using a nasal mask, now nasal mask can be a little confusing. That's going to be an example is like the N20. It'll be something like the Dream Wisp or the Wisp. It can also be something like the Evora or the Eson. Now the Evora is interesting because the Evora is kind of like a nasal pillows mask in the way it fits, but it doesn't actually go up your nose. So it, like the Dreamwear, would also be a nasal mask because it fits under your nose, but it doesn't go up into your nose. So that is a nasal mask. Okay, rotating down, now we have comfort. So the ramp time, I typically tell people to keep the ramp off. What the ramp does is it gives you a period of time where it's much lower and it's going to be increasing the pressure. So let's see an example of this. Pretend like your pressure that you should be on is 10, and this is where it needs to be. That's what you look best on. If you have a ramp of, say, 10 minutes, this is 0, and then we have, well, let's say you do a ramp of 20 minutes. You go 20, it's trying to achieve 10. It's going to start off at like 4, and over a period of 20 minutes, the pressure is going to be increasing in a linear manner, even if you're on AutoPAP. It's going to be increasing up to whatever it needs to be. So this is, for this example, is 10. So hopefully you can see why this is a big problem. So pretend that you fall asleep in like 5 minutes. You fall asleep right here. Now this gives you a period of time to have, apnea, hypopnea, apnea, whatever. You're getting crap sleep for 20 minutes. Now every time you turn the machine off and turn the machine back on, it's going to reset that ramp time. So in general, I typically tell people to leave the ramp off because it tends to cause more problems than it solves. Now, the caveat to that is if you're like going to take the mask off and just not wear it because you get used to the pressure and you can't fall asleep with it, then by all means use the ramp. Otherwise, I'm just not a big fan of them. So pretend like you do want a ramp. You can just push in here and you can say the ramp is going to be on, and you can select whatever you want it to be all the way up to 45 minutes. There's also an auto feature. I'm not exactly sure when the ramp time turns off. I've never tried it. I'm not that interested in it, to be quite honest. But let's pretend like we use a ramp time of 10 minutes, or actually let's go 20 minutes because that was our example. You select the start pressure. So if you're theoretically on a pressure of, let's say 15 or something, you can have the start pressure be like 10. And then, you might not be all that bad, but you can start it wherever you want. The problem is people tend to start it off at the lowest, and so it's going to take a really long time to ramp up to that pressure over that period of time. Okay, EPR stands for expiratory pressure relief. With this machine, if I were to turn it on, we're just pushing in, rotating to on and clicking on, and now we're given what type of EPR do we want and what level. So full time or during the ramp only. So if you select ramp only, this is just during the ramp time. So if you have a ramp set for 10 minutes, the EPR is only going to be set for 10 minutes. As soon as the ramp goes off, EPR goes off as well. That's kind of a cool tool if you decide you want to use the ramp. Otherwise, I would definitely highly recommend not using the EPR, but you can also set it for full time. Now, there's a lot of people that swear by the EPR. Let me tell you what it does and why I don't like it. We're breathing in, kind of flattens, and you get that little peak, and then it drops again. That would be a typical breath. This is the baseline of our breath. And we're always trying to achieve the same pressure with CPAP. What happens with EPR is on the exhale, to make it a little bit easier during this phase, you get it dropping actually below the pressure. So EPR at 1 would be like this. If you go EPR 2, it would be like this. If you go EPR 3, it drops it like this. So you're getting these huge decreases. So this is the most at 3. Remember, this one was 2, and then this one was 1. So what happens is when you have the EPR turned on is it actually turns it into a bilevel. If you're not familiar with bilevel, a bilevel machine just means you have a different inspiratory pressure, a higher inspiratory pressure, and a smaller expiratory pressure. So when you're breathing out, the pressure actually decreases. When you turn EPR, it turns your machine basically into a bilevel, and these are actually corresponding to centimeters of water. So 1 decreases it by 1. So if your pressure is 10, you're now at 10/9 if you have it enabled, 10/8 if you have 2 enabled, 10/7 if you have 3 enabled. Now at this point you might be saying to yourself, oh hell yeah, I just got myself a poor man's bilevel. And that's true, but if someone needs to be on CPAP and they're all of a sudden put on bilevel, it doesn't work out the same. You have a certain level of airway protection, and by that I mean the pressure that is inflating or keeping open, holding open your upper airway. If you mess with that by turning on the EPR, now you're having a lower level of therapeutic pressure. And now you're introducing things like RERAs, hypopneas, things like that can slip through. Many people will say that I'm being a little over dramatic with that, but I would say that's definitely not the case. The other thing EPR does is it messes with your oxygen and carbon dioxide balance. And by that I mean the increase and the decrease in the pressure. Instead of being just static, just a stable pressure, it's now going up and down much more. This is causing you to blow off too much CO2. When you start blowing off too much CO2, it starts to mess with your respiratory drive, and all of a sudden your body, when it should be wanting to breathe, doesn't want to breathe because it's like, hey man, I have no more CO2 left. No need to breathe. It's that buildup of CO2 that is what creates the drive to breathe. And without getting too much into it, if you want to know more about that, remember, I do Oscar Zoom PAP therapy analysis. I can talk to you about that. axgsleepdiagnostics.com. Okay, so I'm going EPR off. Humidity level, we can change all these settings. So humidity is turned off. No heat is being applied to the hot plate right now if I have it on off. I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 8. Now, here's something interesting. If I plug in the climate line tubing, a whole new world opens up. So I'm going to do that. Oh my God, climate line air tubing connected? That's weird. As if I didn't know that because I just plugged the damn thing in. Yes, I'm angry. So now we open up some different options. We have this climate control. If we have that on auto and we have the tube temperature set to auto, now all of a sudden our humidity levels are controlled automatically, and that can be a good thing. The humidity settings are highly personal. I have no suggestions for you. If you're first starting off, I would definitely just start sticking with the auto features. So if you have a climate control set to auto, it's going to be trying to maintain relative humidity of 85. The tube temperature is going to try to maintain a temperature of 80 degrees. So if you don't like 80 degrees, you're not going to want the tube temperature to be set to auto. If you don't know what your favorite relative humidity is, maybe just stick to auto. But if you do have specifics, you can always go in here and change this to manual. And now all of a sudden you can change the humidity level much like you were able to before. You can have this climate control set to auto, but you can adjust the tube temperature. So if you have it set to 80, that's what auto would be doing. But you can decrease it more if you like cooler air. You can increase it more if you like the feeling of a dog exhaling in your face, or jungle air. It's all good. Now, it's really dependent on what the relative humidity is wherever you live. It also changes a lot as the season changes. So sometimes just leaving it on auto is actually kind of a good idea. But feel free to change that as you want. Again, totally up to you. Now, as far as accessories, if you have an AB filter, it's antibacterial filter. It's a big thing on it. Really pointless. It only matters for interpatient use. that you'd even want to use one. So probably not going to do it. Now, essentials, plus or on. I think this has to do with what's reported in your My Air app. My Air app is actually really stupid. If you're using Oscar, don't even worry about it. You're gonna get so much more data out of Oscar, a lot more insight into it. And the data that's reported by these machines is really pretty worthless. So I would actually ignore it and don't even worry about the essentials. Now, Smart Start On, what this does, if I have it turned on and I put the mask on, it'll start the pressure without me doing anything. If I take the mask off and drop it there, it usually turns off by itself after about 5 seconds. The Smart Start being on, I think, is actually really useful. Otherwise, you have to push the button on the top. Not a hard thing, but sometimes it's nice to just grab your mask, put it on, start breathing, and it turns on for you. Now you can set mask reminders, things like that, of when you're supposed to get supplies. I find that stuff largely useless. If you ever want to change the date and the time, you do it right here. So you just push in, adjust the minutes, hour, and date. You can change the pressure to, this is something else, I don't even know what that is, but centimeters of water. You can change the degrees to Fahrenheit or Celsius, restore defaults, or erase the data that's being recorded in it. Now, final thing about that data being recorded is if you are going to use Oscar, you're going to need an SD card. These do not ship with SD cards anymore. Here is an SD card that I use. They don't have to be particularly big. They actually carry a lot of information on them, but you just want one of these. It's not going to record anything if you don't have this in there. So put that in, it'll start recording detailed information, and you can start using Oscar, and it's actually really cool. Now, to get out of the Clinicians menu, you just go up to Exit Clinical menu, hit that, and you are out of there. If you find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. Also check the description box below for ways that you can help support this channel. And if you feel so inclined, leave a comment in the comment section down below. That's it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Please consider using my Amazon link in the description box down below, because whether I'm relaxing at home or in this case, creating sweet content at work, one thing cannot be denied. I am still a thick boy.
Stick it out, even white boys got the shout. Baby got back.
Thank you to anyone watching this video, but an extra special thank you to my top level Patreon supporters
And low level.
Thanks, buddy, to Alan Liu, Stuart Hetherington, and Mona Swearingen. Thank you, and thanks, buddy.